Hello, this is Mr. Lowry, and this is part two of the story Why the Sky is Far Away, a Nigerian folk tale. I'm not going to go over the vocabulary in this one. You can go back and watch the previous video if you would like. But one thing I do want to remind you is that the objective is we'll analyze a folk tale by inferring the theme of the story. Again, the theme of a story is the lesson that the main characters learn, which usually comes in the end. Again, the title oftentimes the title is selected for a reason and it gives you some kind of tip to what the lesson might be. Remember, the title is Why the Sky is Far Away, though we know at the beginning of the story it starts off with saying that in the beginning the sky was very close to the earth. Again, in the beginning the people did not have to work because everything they ever needed, or food-wise anyway, was just close to them in the sky. They just had to reach up and grab a piece. Looks like they're eating glass, but it's just a piece of sky that may taste like anything they can imagine. Again, since the people didn't have to work, they had plenty of time to prepare for festivals and to celebrate. Again, we have the warning from the sky here. We see the first tip to what the problem is of the story. The sky was growing angry because people were wasteful. Most often they took more than they could possibly eat and they threw the leftovers onto garbage heaps. This is where the sky gives his big warning to Oba, which was the king of the area. Your people have wasted my gifts. I'm tired of seeing myself on heaps of garbage everywhere. I warn you, do not waste my gifts any longer, or they will no longer be yours. So there we have a pretty good tip to how we can infer what the theme might be. We see people wasting the sky, or wasting food. The sky is getting angry. He gives a warning, and then we have the big party. And then we're going to have our most central character in this story, which is Adese. We know from the beginning it says that she was a woman who was never satisfied. She couldn't have enough necklaces around her neck, she couldn't have enough children, and she could not get enough to eat. So right there we should be able to infer what might be the problem, what might be the theme. So after the great party that they did have to celebrate the Oba, it says here, what an evening it was. Adese thought later, standing in her own garden again. How I wish I could relive tonight. The drumming I heard, the riches I saw, the food I ate. She looked up at the sky and, hoping to taste again the cocoa yams and meat stew the sky had offered, she took a huge piece to eat. She had only finished 1/3 of it when she could swallow no more. What does Adese do in paragraph 15? Why might this be a problem? Think about that last sentence. What have I done? Wailed Adese. I cannot throw this away. O Tolo! She screamed, calling her husband. Come and finish this piece of sky for me. Her husband, exhausted from dancing all night and stuffed with the sky he had eaten at the Oba's palace, could take only 2 bites. Wake the children! Screamed Adese. Now! The children had spent all night at a masquerade and party after their dinner, and most of them were still too full to even nibble at their mother's piece of sky. Why does Adese ask her husband to wake the children? What does she want the children to help her with? And are they able to help? The neighbors were called, and the neighbors' were called, but Adese still held in her hand a big chunk of sky. What does it matter? She said finally. One more piece of sky on a rubbish heap. And just to make sure it didn't matter, she buried the leftover in the garbage bin at the back of her house. Suddenly the ground shook with thunder. Lightning creased the sky above the Oba's palace, but no rain fell. Describe what the illustration shows. What is happening? Use evidence from the text in your answer. The evidence in the text is here. Remember that a long time ago, these folk tales, people tried to explain things that they didn't have an explanation for because there wasn't school and we didn't have much in the way of science. So sometimes they didn't understand weather patterns that were really strange. Sometimes the people would look up and see a big storm coming and might think that the sky was angry with them. But here, your clue though is you see lightning in the sky, there's thunder, but no rain fell. "Oba, mighty one," boomed a voice from above. "Your people have not treated me with respect. Now I will leave you and move far away." "But what will we eat?" cried Oba. "How will we live?" "You must learn how to plow the land and gather crops and hunt in the forests," answered the sky. "Perhaps through your own labor you will learn not to waste the gifts of nature." Why does the sky tell Oba that he must learn to plow the land and gather crops? Where did the sky go? Why? No one in the land slept very well that night. The rising sun uncovered the heads of men and women and children peering over rooftops and through windows, straining to see if the sky had really left them. It truly had. It had sailed upward far out of their reach. From that day onward, men and women and children had to grow their own food. They tilled the land and planted crops and harvested them. And far above them rested the sky, distant and blue, just as it does today. So again, why are the people looking up? What are they looking for? What lesson do the people in this story learn? The theme of this story is people should not, and really it's more stated, the objective is to infer, but here we have, it says, through their own labor. Remember that at the beginning the people didn't have to work because everything they needed was just above them. Now they're going to have to labor or work. You will learn not to waste the gifts of nature. So the theme of the story is people should not waste the gifts of nature or not waste food. And it's important to these people today in Nigeria. Supposedly this tribe still, so many years later, the story was written 500 years ago, but even today the people realize how important that lesson is to teach their children. Maybe because there's not a lot of food in that area. So you need to make sure you're not wasting it. Do not waste the gifts of nature. To go over again what a folktale is. A folktale is a very old story that has been passed down for many generations by word of mouth. Again, they didn't have books long ago, so the people had to just tell the stories from memory, just from their mouth. They weren't reading the stories out of books like we are today. We do not know who the original author is, because again, it was written so long ago, or invented so long ago, and passed on by word of mouth. We don't have the name of the original author. They often teach a lesson in the end called the theme. Also, I could have added there's usually many different versions, because after they've been passed down for many years, some of the versions change depending on the area, and that's what we see in Little Red Riding Hood and some other famous folk tales that we have here in the United States. Who can explain why Adesi's character is so important to the plot of the story? Remembering that the plot is the main events or the problem and solution. So why is Adesi's character so important? Adesi was the reason why the sky got angry and went away in the end. What was Adesi's wasted food. Oh, I was giving examples of complete and incomplete sentences. And that brings me on to the next part. I see a lot of kids when they're answering their questions in the forms through Google Classroom, I don't see them writing sentences with capital letters or periods. So please remember, here's some example. My dog, white and black, would not be a complete sentence. It doesn't have a capital letter, it doesn't have a period, and it doesn't really make sense. My dog is white and black is a complete sentence. Here I have a capital letter, and there I have a period. Again, this wouldn't make sense. My dog is white and black, but I don't have a period, and I don't have a capital letter. Again, your checklist, always have a capital letter at the start of your sentence. Always have punctuation in the end of your sentence, whether it's a question mark or a period. Only when you're writing would you use a finger maybe to keep appropriate space in between your words. But here on using the keyboard, you just have to use the space bar. Here's some examples of complete sentences or incomplete sentences. My mom gave me lunch. That sounds like it makes sense. I can understand it. So that one's going to go here in complete sentences. Went on the swing. The reason why this is not a complete sentence, it doesn't have a subject. We don't know who went on the swing. So this is incomplete. Bob jumped over it. We have Bob, who is our subject, and we have what he did. He jumped over it. We don't know what it was, but that is a complete sentence. She went home because. We have a subject, she. We have what she did, but we don't have a reason why she went home. So it is not a complete sentence. We will practice more with complete and incomplete sentences later. That's all of this video. Thank you for listening. See you next time.